Welcome to this rigorous scientific lecture on hyperbolic metamaterial nanostructures. Today we will explore how these remarkable engineered materials achieve extreme light confinement, exhibit unusual dispersion properties, and enable revolutionary applications in thermal emission control and subwavelength imaging. Let's begin with the fundamentals. What exactly are metamaterials? Metamaterials are artificially structured materials with electromagnetic properties not found in nature. They achieve their properties through subwavelength structural features rather than chemical composition alone. In natural materials, electromagnetic properties arise from atomic and molecular structure. The permittivity and permeability are determined by how electrons and magnetic moments respond to fields. In metamaterials, we engineer the structure at scales smaller than the wavelength of light. This allows us to create effective medium properties that can be drastically different from the constituent materials. The critical requirement is that the structural features must be much smaller than the wavelength of operation. Typically, we need features smaller than lambda over 10 to achieve good homogenization. Now let's discuss the defining characteristic of hyperbolic metamaterials, their dispersion relation. In ordinary materials, the dispersion relation forms an ellipse or circle in K-space. But hyperbolic metamaterials have something quite different. Here's an important question. What makes the dispersion relation hyperbolic? The answer lies in the anisotropic permittivity tensor. For a uniaxial material, we have epsilon x equals epsilon y equals epsilon perpendicular, and epsilon z equals epsilon parallel. The two perpendicular components are equal, while the parallel component is different. The hyperbolic condition occurs when epsilon perpendicular and epsilon parallel have opposite signs. One component is positive, while the other is negative. This is the key. The dispersion relation is kx squared plus ky squared over epsilon z plus kz squared over epsilon x equals omega squared over c squared. When epsilon z and epsilon x have opposite signs, this becomes a hyperbola rather than an ellipse. There are two types. Type 1 hyperbolic metamaterials have epsilon parallel negative and epsilon perpendicular positive. The hyperboloid opens along the optical axis. Type 2 hyperbolic metamaterials have epsilon parallel positive and epsilon perpendicular negative. The hyperboloid opens in the transverse plane. Here we compare the K-space topology. On the left is a normal ellipsoidal dispersion, a closed surface. On the right is hyperbolic dispersion, an open hyperboloidal surface that extends to infinity. The profound consequence is that hyperbolic dispersion supports an infinite photonic density of states. The open topology means arbitrarily large wave vectors are allowed at a given frequency. How do we actually build these hyperbolic metamaterials? The most common approach uses alternating nanolayers of metal and dielectric materials. Here's the structure: alternating thin layers of metal and dielectric. Typical layer thicknesses are 10 to 30 nanometers. Common materials are silver or gold for metal, and alumina or titanium dioxide for dielectric. We can use effective medium theory to predict the optical properties of this layered structure. The key is that the layers are much thinner than the wavelength. The parallel component, along the layers, follows a simple average. Epsilon parallel equals F times epsilon metal plus 1 minus F times epsilon dielectric, where F is the metal fill fraction. The perpendicular component across the layers follows a harmonic average. 1 over epsilon perpendicular equals F over epsilon metal plus 1 minus F over epsilon dielectric. Let's do a quick calculation. Consider silver and alumina layers at infrared wavelengths around 1.5 micrometers. Let's use equal thicknesses, so F equals 0.5. At this wavelength, silver has a permittivity of approximately negative 100 plus 10I. The large negative real part comes from free electrons. Alumina is a dielectric with permittivity around 3, which is relatively constant in the near infrared. The parallel component is 0.5 times negative 100 plus 0.5 times 3, which gives us negative 48.5. This is negative. For the perpendicular component, 1 over epsilon perp equals 0.5 over negative 100 plus 0.5 over 3. The second term dominates, giving us 0.162. Therefore, epsilon perpendicular is approximately 6.2. This is positive. We have epsilon parallel negative and epsilon perpendicular positive. This is type 1 hyperbolic metamaterial. The sign difference is exactly what we need. Now we arrive at one of the most remarkable properties, the ability to support extremely high wave vector modes. These so-called high K modes enable unprecedented light confinement. Let's ask, why does hyperbolic dispersion enable high wave vector propagation? The answer lies in the open topology of the isofrequency surface. From the dispersion relation, we can solve for Kz. It equals the square root of epsilon x over epsilon z times kx squared plus ky squared minus omega squared epsilon x over c squared. When epsilon x and epsilon z have opposite signs, the ratio is negative. This means as k transverse increases, kz can still remain real and propagating. In normal materials with positive permittivity, large transverse wave vectors lead to imaginary kz. The wave becomes evanescent and cannot propagate. But not in hyperbolic materials. The effective wavelength is 2 pi over the total wave vector magnitude. With very large k, the effective wavelength becomes much smaller than the free space wavelength lambda 0. We can achieve confinement where the effective wavelength is 1/100th or even 1,000th of the free space wavelength. This is extreme subwavelength confinement. Let me give you an analogy to understand this concept better. Think of photons as cars trying to travel between cities. In normal materials, it's like having a limited highway system. There are only so many roads, and cars with high momentum would need to go off-road, where they quickly get stuck in mud and stop. These are evanescent waves. In hyperbolic materials, it's like having an infinite network of highways. No matter how fast the cars want to go, there's always a highway available. High momentum photons can always find a propagating path. Let's now explore how hyperbolic metamaterials revolutionize thermal emission. This connects to Planck's law and the photonic density of states. The spectral energy density follows Planck's law, which is h bar omega cubed over pi squared c cubed times 1 over exponential of h bar omega over kBt minus 1 times the density of states rho omega. The key insight is that thermal emission is directly proportional to the photonic density of states. More available electromagnetic modes means more thermal radiation. Hyperbolic metamaterials have a divergent density of states due to the open isofrequency contour. This can enhance thermal emission by orders of magnitude at specific wavelengths. Here we compare the density of states. Normal materials show a gradual quadratic increase. Hyperbolic materials show exponential or even divergent behavior, creating enormous DOS at certain frequencies. This enables selective thermal emitters. By engineering the hyperbolic frequency range, we can create materials that radiate strongly at desired wavelengths while suppressing emission elsewhere. One application is thermo-photovoltaic energy conversion. We can design emitters that radiate primarily at wavelengths matched to the photovoltaic cell bandgap, dramatically improving efficiency. Let's calculate the emission enhancement. Consider a hyperbolic metamaterial at temperature T equals 1000 Kelvin. Using Wien's displacement law, the peak wavelength is 2898 divided by T, which is 2.9 micrometers. This is in the near-infrared. The density of states enhancement in hyperbolic metamaterials compared to normal materials can be 100 to 10,000 times higher, depending on the quality factor and losses. The radiated power is proportional to density of states times T to the 4th power. With 100x DOS enhancement, we get 100 times more emission at the target wavelength. In practice, material losses, especially in the metal layers, limit the enhancement. Real structures achieve 10 to 100 times enhancement rather than theoretical values. Now let's discuss perhaps the most spectacular application, subwavelength imaging that overcomes the diffraction limit. This uses a device called a hyperlens. The classical diffraction limit, discovered by Ernst Abbe in 1873, states that you cannot resolve features smaller than approximately lambda over 2. This is because high spatial frequency information is carried by evanescent waves that decay exponentially. The resolution limit is delta x greater than or equal to lambda over 2 n sine theta, which is approximately lambda over 2. This has constrained optical microscopy for over a century. The hyperlens concept is brilliant. Use the hyperbolic dispersion to convert evanescent high K waves into propagating waves that can travel to the far field where we can detect them. The hyperlens typically has a cylindrical or spherical geometry with alternating metal dielectric layers. Light from a subwavelength object enters at the inner surface and propagates through the hyperbolic medium with magnification. The hyperlens provides two types of magnification: geometric magnification from the curved structure, and more importantly, wave vector compression that converts large K to smaller k while preserving spatial information. The total magnification is approximately R outer over R inner times the square root of the ratio of epsilon radial to epsilon tangential. This can provide 5x to 10x magnification. Experimental demonstrations have achieved resolution down to lambda over 6, and theoretically, lambda over 10 is possible. This breaks the classical diffraction barrier. What limits hyperlens performance? The main factors are material losses, fabrication imperfections, and impedance matching at interfaces. Metal layers have ohmic losses that attenuate the signal, especially for the highest K modes that require the longest propagation paths through the lossy medium. Let's discuss the energy flow in these systems. The Poynting vector behavior in hyperbolic media is quite unusual and counterintuitive. The time-averaged Poynting vector is 1/2 times the real part of E cross H conjugate. This gives the direction and magnitude of energy flow. In hyperbolic media, the Poynting vector is not parallel to the wave vector. Energy flows at an angle to the phase velocity direction. The energy dissipation is omega over 2 times the imaginary part of epsilon times E dot E conjugate. Losses are proportional to field intensity and material loss tangent. Type 2 hyperbolic metamaterials can exhibit negative refraction at certain angles, where the Poynting vector and wave vector are on opposite sides of the surface normal. Here we see negative refraction. The incident wave vector Kn comes from upper left. The refracted wave vector K out bends to the same side as the incident angle opposite to Snell's law. The energy flow S determines the actual beam direction. How do we actually fabricate these complex nanostructures? Several techniques are employed, each with advantages and limitations. Atomic layer deposition provides excellent thickness control down to the nanometer scale. It can deposit conformal coatings even on complex 3D geometries. Sputtering is used for metal layers, offering good uniformity and reasonable speed. The challenge is achieving very thin, continuous films without pinholes. Electron beam lithography can define nanopatterns for more complex metamaterial geometries beyond simple layers. Resolution down to 10 nanometers is achievable. The main challenge is achieving the theoretical performance. Interface roughness, layer thickness variations, and material quality all degrade performance compared to ideal models. Let's discuss the quality factor, which quantifies how well the hyperbolic behavior is maintained despite losses. The quality factor is defined as the ratio of the real part of epsilon to the imaginary part. Higher Q means lower losses. Silver has a quality factor of 10 to 20 in the near infrared. Gold is lower at 5 to 10. These relatively low values limit performance. There's a trade-off. Higher metal fill fraction increases the strength of hyperbolic behavior, but also increases losses. Optimal fill fraction is typically 30 to 50%. Let's briefly touch on advanced concepts. Recent research has explored active and tunable hyperbolic metamaterials. Graphene-based hyperbolic metamaterials can be tuned by gate voltage. The Fermi level shifts change the optical conductivity, allowing dynamic control. Phase change materials like vanadium dioxide undergo structural transitions that dramatically change permittivity. This enables switchable hyperbolic behavior. At high intensities, nonlinear effects become important. The extreme field enhancement in hyperbolic media can drive strong nonlinear processes like harmonic generation and four-wave mixing. Hyperbolic metamaterials also dramatically affect quantum emitters placed near them through the Purcell effect. The Purcell factor is 3 over 4 pi squared times lambda cubed over effective mode volume times quality factor Q. This quantifies the enhancement of spontaneous emission rate. The divergent density of states in hyperbolic media leads to Purcell factors exceeding 1,000, much larger than conventional cavities. The modified radiative decay rate is gamma rad equals the Purcell factor times gamma 0, the free space decay rate. This can accelerate emission by orders of magnitude. This enables ultra-bright single-photon sources for quantum information. The enhanced emission rate and collection efficiency dramatically improve brightness. How do hyperbolic metamaterials compare to traditional plasmonic structures? Let's contrast their properties. Traditional plasmonic nanostructures support localized surface plasmon resonances with strong field enhancement, but suffer from high losses and narrow bandwidth. Hyperbolic metamaterials provide broadband operation over the entire hyperbolic frequency range and direction-dependent properties that are difficult to achieve with plasmonics alone. Hybrid approaches combining plasmonic resonances with hyperbolic dispersion can achieve even stronger enhancement. The plasmonic resonance couples efficiently to the high K modes of the hyperbolic medium. What are the current frontiers in this field? Let me highlight several exciting directions. Researchers are developing true 3D hyperbolic metamaterials with more complex architectures. This includes nanowire forests and gyroid structures. Integration with 2D materials like graphene, transition metal dichalcogenides, and hexagonal boron nitride creates natural hyperbolic systems at the atomic scale. Time-varying hyperbolic metamaterials, where properties are modulated rapidly, can break reciprocity and enable photonic isolators and circulators without magnetic fields. Recent work explores topological properties of hyperbolic metamaterials. Protected edge modes could enable robust photonic devices immune to fabrication defects. Let me give you some practical design guidelines if you want to work with hyperbolic metamaterials. First, choose your target wavelength and select materials with appropriate plasma frequencies and loss characteristics for that wavelength. Use effective medium theory to calculate the layer thicknesses needed for desired epsilon parallel and epsilon perpendicular. Remember the homogenization requirement. Perform full-wave electromagnetic simulations, including material dispersion and losses. Don't rely solely on effective medium approximations. Optimize the structure for your specific figure of merit, whether that's density of states, Purcell factor, or imaging resolution, considering realistic losses. What are the fundamental limits to hyperbolic metamaterial performance, and what does the future hold? Causality and the Kramers-Kronig relations impose fundamental limits on how much enhancement is possible for a given material loss. The maximum enhancement is roughly bounded by Q times omega plasma over omega. This sets an upper limit for any material system. The search continues for alternative materials with lower loss than metals. Transparent conducting oxides, nitrides, and 2D materials are promising candidates. The strong Purcell enhancement might enable room temperature quantum effects that normally require cryogenic cooling. This could revolutionize quantum photonics. Let me summarize the key concepts we've covered in this lecture. Hyperbolic metamaterials have permittivity tensor components with opposite signs, creating open hyperboloidal dispersion in K-space. The open dispersion supports arbitrarily large wave vectors at fixed frequency, enabling light confinement far beyond the diffraction limit. The divergent photonic density of states dramatically enhances thermal emission and spontaneous emission rates. Curved hyperbolic structures can magnify subwavelength images by converting evanescent high K components into propagating waves. Real systems are limited by material losses, primarily from metal absorption. Careful design must balance enhancement against dissipation. Hyperbolic metamaterials impact multiple fields from classical optics and thermal engineering to quantum electrodynamics and photonics. In conclusion, hyperbolic metamaterials represent a fascinating convergence of material science, nanofabrication, and fundamental electromagnetic theory. They demonstrate how artificial nanostructuring can create properties impossible in nature and enable applications from super-resolution imaging to quantum light sources and thermal management. While challenges remain, particularly regarding losses and fabrication scalability, the field continues to advance rapidly with new materials, designs, and applications emerging regularly. The principles we've discussed today, extreme anisotropy, high wave vector mode support, and density of states engineering, will likely find applications well beyond what we can imagine today.